Welcome back, Math 9 YouTubers. Tronis here. Let's do 3.2. This should be mostly review. Very few new things going on here, if any. You should be able to handle this stuff. Let's talk about adding rational numbers, which let's just remember that's basically the same as adding fractions or decimals. That's what rational numbers. You can think of those numbers as the ones in between. And so that are partial or fractional. So we're going to recall adding and subtracting fractions. There are four straightforward steps, okay? And most students try to just memorize these, but I'm hoping through a lot of practice and working in class and a few different activities, you'll get to understand why you always have to do these four steps. So the first one, if you have to, you're going to convert any mix to improper. Okay, we need to work with improper fractions. It makes our life easier when adding and subtracting, multiplying, dividing fractions. Now we're going to make fractions compatible. They need to be the same size, which means we need to create common denominators, same number on the bottom. Okay, you've done that a lot in previous years in middle school. We're going to do it some more to get really comfortable with it. Finally, once you have the same size, you can simply add those numerators and always keep the same denominator because that's the measurement or the size of the pieces. You just need to add the amount of pieces that you have that are the top numerators. And if you get an improper fraction when you're done, if it asks you to do so, and most of the time I will ask you, is convert it back to mixed. I want you to be able to go reverse. So let's just work through some examples and it should come back to you here. So the first one here is I have 2 over 5 plus negative 1 over 5. Now, what this negative is representing, or what these brackets are just basically saying, I'm adding a negative, which is, or adding the opposite, but we can handle this just fine. But first, we need a common denominator. 3 and 5 are not the same. So what can I multiply each of these by to get the same value on the bottom? And we want to use the lowest common denominator, which is the same as lowest common multiple. If you forget how to do that, simply take the 3 and take the 5 and start skip counting. So after 3 is 6, then 9, then 12, then 15. And that tells me, oh, I think that's divisible by 5. Let's check. 5, 10, 15. That is my lowest common multiple, which is what I want to do to change these, is what I want to change these into to get the common denominator. So I'm simply going to take this number and multiply it by 3 on the top and bottom. You must do it on the top and bottom or else it is not equivalent. And I'm going to multiply by 5 over here. With this one, I'm going to get brand new fractions of 10 over 15. And I'm going to be adding the negative 3 over 15. Okay, now we're adding the opposite here, which we know when we add the opposite, this is the same as subtraction. So I'm taking 10, I'm adding 3 negatives. I'm going to get an overall result because now I have same denominators. We'll have 7 over 15. Okay, and that is a proper fraction. We don't need to do the fourth step. So in this case, we didn't have to do, if I were to scroll up, we didn't have to do step 1 or step 4 because there were no mixed numbers and we didn't get an improper fraction in the end. We just had to do step 2 and 3. We got a common denominator and then we added the numerators. That's all we had to do using our integer rules. Now, let's do one where we actually have to do all 4 steps. So step 1, okay, step 1, I'm going to convert this first. I'm going to rewrite it, convert it. So here's my step 1 line. I'm going to take this 8, multiply by the 2, and add the 5. So that 16 plus 5 is going to give me 21. So now I have negative 21 over 8 plus and this one I'm leaving. It's already improper. Okay, so there's step 1. Step 2, I need same denominator. So that's easy. All I need to do is look at my two denominators and how can I get them the same? Well, one's an 8, what's a 2? I can see, oh, I could just multiply this 2 by 4 and I'll get a common denominator. So let's do that. This fraction stays the same. And then I'm going to be adding negative 28 over 8. And now we're ready to do step 3. Step 3 is now I'm just going to add these numerators, negative 21 plus negative 28. So I'm going to get more negative here. I'm going to have negative 49 altogether over 8. And finally, I have to do step 4, which means I'm going to convert that back. So I'm going to convert this, and that means, hey, how many times does 8 go into 49? And that is going to be 6 whole times. Don't forget it's negative, though. So this is negative 6, 6 whole times. 6 times 8 is 48. So I'm going to have 1 left over, or 1/8. And there you go. There's your 4 steps. We converted, we got a common denominator, we added, and then we converted back. There's your 4 steps. All right. Now, this does show you that there are 2 methods. I am not going to show in this lesson how to do method 2. I find this method takes longer. It is helpful for estimating, but this does require more work and can lead to more mistakes. So I actually want you to use this other method. I will show you how to quickly just use this as an estimation tool, okay, to see if you're correct. All right, so let's convert mixed to improper. We're going to do exactly what we did before. So I'm just going to, in this first step, here's step 1, I'm going to be converting from there to there. So I'm just going to go 4 times 3 is 12, and then add the 1 is 13. So I'm going to have negative 13 over 4, and I'm going to be adding, again, let's convert here. I have to convert both of them. 2 times 6 is 12 plus 5 is 17. So I get 17 over 6. Step 2, let's get a common denominator. The lowest common denominator of 4 and 6 is 12. You could go as high as 24, but let's always go with the lowest to make our life easier. So I'm going to multiply both of these by 2 and both of these by 3. So now I'm going to get a brand new fraction. When I take negative 13 multiplied by 3, I get negative 39, and 4 times 3 is 12. And then I'm going to add 17 times 2 is 34, and 6 times 2 is 12. So now I have common denominators. I can combine these. So step 3, let's actually add these two numbers. I have negative 39 plus 34. I'm still going to be negative because I have more negative here. I'm going to end up with negative, it looks like 5. Okay, you can use your calculator to check these if you're unsure. And that, of course, is over 12. Keep the denominator the same. This requires no step 4. We are done, okay, because this is there is no improper fraction to convert to mixed. Now, if I were to estimate here, the idea is take the whole parts. Well, what's negative 3 plus 2? That's going to give me negative 1, okay? And then I have to add, think about it this way, I have to add negative quarter to 5/6, okay? And we can see that this overall is going to be positive. So I'm going to have negative 1. And I'm going to be adding a fractional piece to that. So I'm going to land somewhere between 0 and 1. I just know that this is going to be positive. That's what I'm estimating here. I don't expect you to do this in your head, but just knowing that 5/6 is bigger than 1/4, I know I'm going to get a positive result here, meaning this is going to get closer to 0, and this number is closer to 0. So all I'm doing here is doing a quick estimation. Am I close to about the right answer? And I can tell that I am. Again, this method will be shown in class. If it helps you, you can do it that way. Okay, let's do some word problems. Word problems, crucial thing to do is often to draw a picture or represent it in some basic equation. So here I want you to think about, as we read through this, uh, what do I need to do to get my solution? So let's look at what it's talking about here, get a little bit of context, and we can convert this easily into a really simple equation. So at the beginning of November, the Frosty Snowblower Company was $235.46 in debt. Well, this debt means negative. Debt is negative. That's a bad thing. So let's write that expression. We're going to be writing that first in a second. And by the end of November, the company had increased its debt. So we're adding debt. Okay, increased is addition, and debt again is a negative number. Okay, so this is increasing is adding, and again, saying that it's debt, this keyword debt, I should have underlined that, that is negative. So we're going to write an expression of this situation, then calculate how much money the company owed at the end of November. So the idea is we started with debt of $235.46. Okay, so hence I'm using a negative value here. I'm going to put that in brackets to emphasize. And I'm adding more debt. When I'm adding more debt, I'm adding a negative. So I'm adding 156.71. And now I can see that my answer is going to increase in the negative direction. We're going to have a more negative value because I've increased my debt. And whenever you have decimals, make sure you use your calculator. I'm not expecting you to do this by hand. You definitely could, calculator. And you also have a button that allows you to enter in negatives. It usually looks something like this, a plus minus button. Okay, it allows you to type in a number and press this button and convert it to a negative. If you do that, if you enter that and then add that, you're going to get an overall negative of what do we have here? Put our dollar sign because it's money in our final answer. We have $392.17. That's a 9. Okay. So that is what is owing. Okay. Another way to write that is we can drop the negative and say, therefore, a debt. Okay. Therefore, we have a debt of $392.17. Always put your dollar sign in front. Okay. So if I say debt, that's the same as saying negative. All right. So what does it say here? Something changed with the company. By the end of December, the company earned a net amount of $462.58. Okay, so we're earning a net amount. This whole statement here means plus. That should make sense, I think. Is the company still in debt or hasn't made a profit? Well, it was in debt. We had a negative of $392.17, and we're adding this net amount. Okay, so this is adding a positive, which is 462.58. And if we put that in our calculator, we're going to get an overall result of $70.41. It looks like they've paid their debts and they're in the profit. Okay, so therefore we have a profit of $70.41. So that's looking a little better. Final question. On a particular day in December, the temperature was negative 13.4 degrees Celsius in the morning and rose, that means addition, rising, okay, of 7.62 degrees Celsius. What was the highest temperature of the day? So we're starting at negative 13.4 and it rose, meaning we're adding 7.62 degrees, okay? That's simple. Now we have our equation. Use your calculator, enter it in as a negative, and overall we're still going to be negative, right? It's still cold. It's negative 13 and it only rose up 7.62 degrees. So overall, the highest temperature is negative 5.78 degrees Celsius. Word problems, do not forget your units for context. Okay, so basically we recalled how to add, how we add rational numbers, which is basically saying adding fractions. And then when we got to decimals, we made sure we wrote our equations correctly, being careful with negatives, reading our word problems carefully, and then using our calculator. Okay, we'll see you in class. Have a good one.